And when you set a boundary, rest assured, you are going to disappoint someone. And what that means is that you're doing something right. And if you're feeling pulled in too many different directions, it might be time to start saying no to things that don't align with your values and don't move you forward on your goals and dreams. You're never too busy, too tired, too old, or too anything to pursue your dreams. Welcome to the Distracted Dreamer podcast, where you'll learn how to move all those never-ending distractions aside and chase your dreams with confidence. Hello. Welcome back to the Distracted Dreamer podcast. I'm Carlene, your friend and host, and I am so happy that you are here today because we are celebrating 30 episodes together. Can you believe it? So whether you've been here since the very beginning or you're just tuning in for the first time, I just want to say welcome. And let's talk about what we're going to talk about today because it's a big one. We are talking about the power of no. Yeah, that tiny little word that means so much. And that tiny little word can also feel so uncomfortable to say. But when we do, it holds so much freedom for us. Let's face it, saying no, it's hard. And funny thing, we didn't have a problem saying no when we were young. But somewhere along the way, as you got older, you found out that saying no had a cost. There were consequences. So here are some examples that I can think of. Like if you said no to some peer pressure, the consequence was it made you feel left out. If you said no to your parents or your teachers, that often led to some form of punishment. So those are all consequences of saying no. And along the way, you compromised. You people pleased for the sake of everyone else's peace except your own. We all do it. You prioritized others' comfort and desires over your own well-being, often at the expense of what you really wanted. And over time, it turned into a pattern of overcommitting, being stressed, and sometimes, resenting people. So learning to say no, it's not only about reclaiming your power to make decisions that honor your needs, but it's also about rediscovering that childlike freedom that I just talked about, to choose to say no without any fear. You can relearn that it's okay to prioritize yourself. You can. And you can relearn to say what you need and say it in a way that honors you and is still respectful to the other person. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, we're talking about this because I have gotten several texts from listeners asking, how the heck do you say no to things that you are overcommitting yourselves, but you don't know how to turn people down and disappoint them? And here's why this is so important for our dreams. Chances are you've got a million ideas and you've got a big heart. And you love to help, and you love to say yes to people and to opportunities and to all the projects and all the causes. And honestly, that is beautiful. But here's what I've learned the hard way. Saying yes to everything actually means saying no to what matters most to you. When we fill our days with everyone else's priorities, our creativity, our energy, our dreams, they get squeezed out, and there's no room for our dreams to breathe. And you know what's often at the root of all that overcommitting? Yeah, we know it as people-pleasing. Saying yes when we really want to say no, just to avoid the conflict, or to be liked, or because we don't want to let someone down. But here's the truth. Every yes you give out of guilt or fear, it costs you something. There's a consequence to that. And what I want to tell you is saying no, it isn't selfish. It's self-respect and it's self-care. And trust me, people who build these meaningful creative lives, guess what? They get really good at protecting their yes and they boldly use their no instead. Now, if you've ever struggled with saying no because you didn't want to disappoint someone, you are in good company here. And today, we're diving into why learning to say no is actually one of the bravest things you can do for yourself and your dreams. And I'm going to share a simple process that you can use to say no with confidence and give you a few reflection questions to help you know when a no is the right move. And finally, we're going to talk about how to say no respectfully, with confidence, and apology-free. And I've found this is the missing piece in so many conversations. We talk about the power of no and say no, but no one gives you the exact words to use, which is what we all really want to know. So go ahead and grab your coffee, your journal, or just hit play while you're driving or you're doing the laundry, walking the dog, and let's get into it. Now, we are going to start this conversation with the one thing that you shouldn't do when you get an invitation or someone requests your time. So let's just keep it really simple. Let's say you get a text from a coworker that says, "Hey, want to grab coffee tomorrow before work? I need my caffeine fix, LOL." And almost instantly, you can feel it in your gut. You want to say no. It's not that you don't like your coworker, but you see them as more of a work friend, not a friend, and really more of a repeat acquaintance. And honestly, you don't want to give up an hour making small talk when you've got so much going on. So in this example, and in all examples of you getting an invitation or a request, you are faced with 3 choices. The first choice is to accept it. The second choice is to decline it. And the third choice is you can ignore it. And you and I both know that you want to choose C. Because in fact, ignoring it, it seems to be the trend. It's also known as ghosting someone. And according to Jefferson Fisher, he is a trial lawyer and author of The Next Conversation. People do this because initially ignoring it works, but for all the wrong reasons. You have a limited number of ignores until the other person catches on that you're avoiding them or ghosting them. And when you hit that limit, the other person, they will fill in their own blank as to why you're avoiding them. And it's guaranteed to be worse than the truth of why you want to say no. And let's face it, it's also a cop-out. So when you see your coworker tomorrow, you'll say something like, "Oh, darn, I totally missed that text. Would have loved to." You know what? You can only get away with that so many times. And another thing we really have to acknowledge here is that ignoring and ghosting, it's disrespectful to the other person and to yourself. The other thing that I want you to consider is how much mental space this is taking up. Every time you see that unread message, every time that thought crosses your mind, or you see that person, there's a weight of an unresolved issue. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It actually prolongs the decision and leads to another conversation that you really don't want to have somewhere down the road. Your coworker will ask for another time to have coffee and put you on the spot. That will happen. And this leads to more wasted time and more stress. So do not ignore a request or an invitation. Have the confidence to know that your peace of mind isn't negotiable. Confidence means if you want to accept, you accept. If you don't, you don't. Okay, now you're asking, how do I get confidence saying no? How do I do this? Well, that is a great question, my friend. The first thing is to know in your heart, in your gut, in your mind, that saying no is what you mean to say. That's what you want to say. And hemming and hawing about it, should I or shouldn't I? They don't exude confidence. Now I'm going to give you 5 reflection questions to help you get clear on when you should say no. The first question is, does this align with my current priorities and goals? And as you're thinking about this might be what your thought process, what your thoughts sound like. Your brain might be saying, well, right now, I've promised myself to protect my weekends so I can work on my book outline. And as fun as this event sounds, it doesn't really move me closer to that goal. Here's another example. Maybe your brain is saying, I've been focusing on getting more rest and simplifying my schedule. Taking this on would pull me back into busy mode, which isn't what I need right now. The next question to ask yourself to make sure that what you really want to say is no is ask yourself, am I saying yes out of guilt or obligation? I bet you've heard this soundtrack in your head. If I'm honest, the only reason I want to say yes is because I don't want them to be disappointed in me. But deep down, I don't actually want to do this. I have to tell you, that's a guilt yes, not a heart yes. Another example of saying yes out of guilt or obligation might sound like this in your head. I feel like I owe them because they've helped me before. But I need to remember that my worth isn't tied to keeping score or being the go-to person every time. The third question to find out is no, the right answer for you is, will saying yes cost me energy, time, or focus I can't afford to give? Here's the soundtrack that you might have heard before. If I say yes to this, it means I'm working late again. And I promised myself I'd stop doing that because it's draining me. I really can't afford to give more of my evenings away. Have you heard that soundtrack before? So many of us have. Here's another example. This sounds exciting, but I've already committed to 2 other big projects. If I say yes, something else will suffer, probably my sleep or my mental space. The fourth question, is this a should or a true want? And one thing that I want to add here is that we shouldn't be shoulding all over ourselves. If we are living our lives by shoulds, we aren't living our lives. So what does the thought sound like when you're trying to answer this question? Is this a should or a true want? It might sound like, I feel like I should go because it's a networking opportunity, but I actually feel zero excitement about it. My gut's telling me this isn't a want. It's just another thing on my should list. Yes, we have to listen to these soundtracks. Here's another example. You could be thinking, I keep hearing that I should say yes to every opportunity to grow my business, but this doesn't actually light me up. I'd rather wait for something that feels like a real yes in my body. And the fifth question, if I say yes, what am I saying no to? Here's what this sounds like. If I say yes to this meeting, I'm saying no to the afternoon I blocked off to do some creative work. I've been pushing that off for weeks, and I really don't want to push it again. Or you might be thinking, if I say yes to this extra shift, I'm saying no to the family dinner that we've been looking forward to. And honestly, family time feels more important right now. Before you say no, listen to what is going on in your heart and in your mind. They don't lie to you. Do not override them with a fake yes that doesn't align with your goals, your dreams, your values. Now, here are a few red flags that a no might actually be the most loving choice. And some of these came up in the responses that we just went through. Is maybe you feel a tight knot in your stomach or your body is tensing up. Or maybe you're saying yes just to avoid disappointing somebody. Or you're already stretched thin, but you feel like you should make it work. And you feel that light tap on your shoulder and you hear that whispering, this isn't right for you now. Friend, honoring that voice, that is where the magic starts. Okay, so we've mentioned disappointment and guilt a couple times already. And an important element of a confident no is to actually embrace the feelings of disappointment and guilt. You have to work through them. You have to be okay with them. because this is all part of the process of reclaiming your needs and creating time freedom for yourself. And when you feel like you're disappointing the other person, it's typically 98% ego and 2% truth. Part of your feelings of disappointment is really you convincing yourself that your presence or your input on a project is so needed that the other person will be crushed if you say no. And I have to tell you, rarely are you or I that important. We just are not that important, and that's okay. And when it comes to standing up for yourself, disappointing someone, it often means that you're doing the right thing. Remember, saying no goes well beyond getting coffee or not. No's speak to your values, your health, your family, your career, your well-being, your self-respect, and these are all things in your life that are worth protecting. Do you know someone who confidently says no? I had a really hard time coming up with someone. And so I thought, okay, what have I been watching? And I've been watching Suits for the second time around, so don't judge me. But so I thought of Donna from Suits. So if you're a Suits fan, you'll know what I'm talking about here. So the example I thought of was when Donna said no to being just a secretary. Throughout the series, Donna, she constantly shows that she's more than just a secretary. And one of her standout moments is when she asks for and actually gets a promotion to COO. But the big moment actually comes before that, when she says no to staying in a role that no longer challenges or fulfills her. It's a really brave move because it risks changing her dynamic with Harvey and all the other people at the firm. But she knows it's time to step into her values. And she says, I want more. This is a really great example of saying no to staying small when you know that you're capable of more. Now, I know that's a big life-changing no. A no to coffee, not life-changing in of itself, but keep saying no to things that steal your time and focus, and you'll see how possible it is to make room for your dreams one no at a time. And here's the truth. We end up disappointing ourselves when we choose someone else's peace over our own. You know that going to that family reunion, it always makes you feel bad about yourself. But you don't want to disappoint your family. The consequence of going is risking your mental health. And that consequence is something you'll carry around with you for days or months after that reunion. And you have to protect what really matters to you, what you value. You have to move through that disappointment and the guilt, and you have to put yourself first. Now we are getting to the juicy part here that you have been waiting for, which is exactly how to say no with confidence. Here it is, the missing piece. 3 simple steps according to Jefferson Fisher, the trial lawyer and author of The Next Conversation that I mentioned earlier. He gives us the actual words to use when saying no. I am sharing here with you his 3 simple steps. The first step to a confident no is to say no. Okay, how many different ways can you say no? Here's some examples. You can say, I can't, I won't be able to, I need to say no, I need to take a pass, I made a promise to myself that, ... You see, with these responses, you're not beating around the bush. You're being very clear, and that's a confident no. You're being direct and to the point. Now, step 2 to saying no is to show gratitude. So after you give your no, you say something like, thank you for inviting me or including me or thinking of me. Or that's so kind of you. That means a lot. Or I appreciate you asking me. Or I'm flattered. I'm honored. When you make the mistake of leading with gratitude, like, thank you, but I can't go, the word but takes away from that gratitude. When you use gratitude second, you will keep the full expression of it. So the order of these steps is very, very important. The third and final step is to show kindness. You would say something like, it sounds like a wonderful time. I hope it goes well. I know it will be great. I've heard good things about ... I hope you're doing well. And again, the sequence here is important. Let's go over it again. First, you begin with the no because it's direct, and direct is kind. Second, you layer the no with gratitude, which acknowledges the value or thoughtfulness of the gesture or the invitation. By saying no and then using gratitude, you remove the need to use the word but in your response. And finally, ending with a statement of kindness, it finishes your answer on a more pleasant note. And especially in a text or a written conversation, feel free to use emojis when appropriate to help give the reader some emotional context. Let's go back to the coffee imitation from your coworker. We're going to put this into action here. This is what a confident no sounds like. I can't. Thank you for the invite. Hope you're doing well. Do you see how short and simple that is? You do not over-explain. You do not apologize. Okay, how about that family reunion? Here's what a confident no sounds like. I won't be able to. I appreciate you thinking of me. I know it will be great. How about when someone asks you to help them with a project? Here's how a confident no sounds. I need to say no. I promise myself to not commit to anything else. Thank you for thinking of me. I know it's going to turn out great. Here's another one. Saying no to someone wanting to pick your brain for free, like they want to hop on a call with you. Step 1, you say no. I won't be able to hop on a call right now. Show gratitude. It honestly means a lot that you value my experience and want my input. And step 3 is to end it with kindness. I hope it goes well. Now you have 3 steps. You have the actual words that you can use to say no. And the more you do this, the more confident you are going to feel. Let's wrap this up with some key truths about a confident no. First, no is a boundary. It tells people what you allow and what you don't allow. And what you will not be is sorry about it. No doesn't need an apology. Next, get comfortable disappointing people. It's not your job to protect your peace and the peace of someone else. And when you set a boundary, rest assured, you are going to disappoint someone. And what that means is that you're doing something right. And if you're feeling pulled in too many different directions, it might be time to start saying no to things that don't align with your values and don't move you forward on your goals and dreams. So give these a try. Don't over-explain. Don't apologize. Every time you follow these steps, you're building more confidence around saying no and protecting your peace. Thank you for being here with me today. And remember, your dreams are waiting for you. Your time is now, and I'll be back next week, ready to welcome you to our next conversation.
Oh, and one more thing. This is the legal language. You know, the stuff that the lawyers put together, and they say that I need to read this to you. So here we go. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm just your friend. I'm not a licensed therapist. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. Got it? Good. I will see you in the next episode.